Hi there, this is Brian from Ultimate Mobility, and we are going to go through some hamstrings troubleshooting today. So, whether you've dealt with chronic hamstrings tension or pain, strains or pulls, or you just want to make your hamstrings stronger and more resilient to reduce the likelihood of injury, this is for you. So we're going to start going through what exactly you can do right after pain or injury presents itself, assuming it's not severe, and then we're going to go through some of the training and mobility work you can do to build up resilience and strengthen your hamstrings to reduce the severity or likelihood of injury in the future and help you just generally feel great. Sound good? Awesome, let's get started. So first off, let's say you have a little pull or a big pull, not feeling great in the hamstrings. What can you do? Right after, what you want to do is move your body. You want to move the tissues of the hamstrings. If that is not possible, because it might be tender, it might be painful, then we want to move the surrounding tissues as much as possible. Even if that's just walking for now, staying on your feet can be very helpful. Our body is immediately going to send resources to the area to help start the repair process. If we do not move our body or produce some amount of force, we don't direct that process. So we want to use movement and isometrics to help direct the healing process immediately, as well as reduce inflammation and bring nutrients in and out of the area. So a great way to do that initially is through hip cars and knee cars, hip and knee movement. So hip cars are just big rotations. So our hamstrings attach at our hip, they attach at our knee. So we want to move both of these joints to help stimulate that movement. So hip cars, big hip rotation through a large pain-free range of motion. Now, if you have a bit of an ache in your hamstring and it might be steady for a while no matter what you do, that's okay. We just don't want this to make it worse either right now or later. So hip cars, you want to go through a nice big range of motion. See how I'm keeping my body still and I'm moving my hip in a nice big circle? That's exactly what we want to do. For the knees, if you bend and extend your knee, you're going to move your hamstring, right? So if I bend my knee, flex my knee, I'm going to contract the hamstring, it's going to shorten. If I extend the knee, I'm going to lengthen. So if you can do this without too much trouble, wonderful. Go for that. We just want to pump that a little bit, nice and easy, not too hard. If you can handle a little bit more, you can squeeze at that end point. Squeeze at the end point here to get a little more intensity through this. But you just want to find a position where you can move your knee and you can stimulate some movement here. Now, if you're in a little bit more of an extreme hip position, lots of extension, lots of flexion, it's going to be more intense on the hamstrings tissues as well. So just be mindful that if you're here, this is going to put more strain on the hamstring. If you're here, it's going to put more stretch on the hamstrings. So find a spot that works for you. Now we can also do rotation of the knee, rotation of the shin. So what you can see here is that when I rotate my shin externally, I move some of these hamstrings tissues, like that. When I rotate internally, I move some of these. Now what I'd recommend is initially just do this seated. You can do it on a bench, seated on the floor, whatever. You want to keep your kneecap nice and still and try to rotate that shin without the thigh moving. So this generally is a little bit more of a gentle way to get the hamstrings tissues moving. So just by walking, by doing knee rotations, knee flexion extension, hip rotations, hip cars, all of that is a really good way to immediately start stimulating some blood flow and helping the recovery process and reduce the likelihood that you tighten up and then have trouble moving in the future. So we want to keep these areas moving as much as you can off and on for the next few days to help promote the recovery. In addition to that, we want to add isometrics. So this is a contraction where we are not moving, but we're producing force with our hamstrings muscles specifically. So if this is the one I'm after, for an isometric, what I would do is find a stretch that is not painful. So you want to start with a non-painful stretch, which might mean you're barely stretched at all. So maybe I'm here, right? So my hamstrings in this position aren't going to be very stretched. In this position, they're going to be very stretched. Right after an injury, we want to start in a very low stretch position. If you're further along and you just have tension, it's not pain, then you can go in a little bit deeper of a stretch. We want to start low stretch, progress to high stretch. Okay, so what you can do is find a stretch that works for you, then we're going to produce force by pulling our heel down and back. So if I dig in as if I'm trying to buckle this mat under me, I'm going to feel my hamstrings working. The way we want to do this with our isometrics is a very gradual build-up of intensity and then a steady hold for 10 to 30 seconds, depending on how it feels for you. So, very important here. Whether you've dealt with an injury right now or not, we want to start low intensity, low stretch, gradual build-up, and then we can progress all of those things. Got it? All right, cool. So here's what I would do. My hand is going to be representative of intensity. Okay, here I'm going to dig down and in with my heel. Feel this. I'm going to gradually build up the intensity, maybe 30–40% of my max effort. Okay, and I'm going to just hold steady. If your hamstrings have had some trouble in the past, it might be hard to hold steady. It might be kind of fluctuating. That's okay, but we don't want to be pushing through pain. Okay, now, if you want to specifically isolate the area where you felt pain, you can rotate your body. You can find a different position. I'll give you another example here. So this is what I typically do if I'm not having too much pain, right? So I can rotate my thigh. I can rotate my body to try to find the angle that addresses the specific area where I'm dealing with pain. Now, let's say it hurts here. Okay, so I want to find an angle that does not hurt but is close to this. So maybe this doesn't hurt, or maybe this doesn't hurt. So I want to get close to the painful part, the part that reproduces the pain, without it being painful. So if this hurts, I'm going to go here. And then I'm going to do the isometrics again. So check it out. Ready? I'm going to now dig down. You can even watch this contract a little bit. Right? I'm going to dig down 10% effort. 20, 30, 40, 50, about as hard as I can go right now. I'm going to hold it nice and steady. 20 to 30 seconds, or 10 to 30 seconds really. About a 10-second buildup, then we hold for 20. Then I'm going to slowly relax. It might be that after that, you can get into a deeper range of motion without pain, and then you can work there. So what I recommend is work as close to the target area as you can, doing the isometrics. And we want to try to do 3 to 4 sets of 20 to 30 seconds twice per day initially. You can do that a little more as long as you don't have pain, and probably within the first couple days of an injury, you want to stay nice low intensity, 20 to 40% of your maximal effort. This can be hard to quantify, but just think way less than you think, okay? If you were to push your leg down as hard as possible, okay, that's 100%, so we want to do significantly less than that. So just think like, I want to feel my hamstring on tension, working a little bit. Not something I could do forever, but something I could do and sustain for quite a while. And it's okay if it gets a little bit fatigued by the end of that 30 seconds. We do want to provide a stimulus for adaptation. And these isometrics are really good for improving muscle and tendon health specifically. Over time, we can see significant improvements in the health and structure of the tendon. So as you progress, maybe now you don't have the pain, but you're just dealing with tension, you're a little nervous of getting back to full speed. So now we're going to go into a deeper stretch, right? So I'm going to go in and boom, nice intense stretch. I'm going to now build up to a higher intensity. So I'm still going to start low. We're still going gradual with our buildup. Okay, so I'm going to dig in. I'm going to start down here. I'm digging in, digging in. Once I get to maybe 50%, I'm going to start pushing forward with that back foot like they're pulling together, and that's going to help me create even more tension. Tension through my entire body, and I'm working really, really hard. For these high intensity reps, we're only going to hold for maybe 8 to 10 seconds. If it's 90 to 100% of our intensity, then we're going to slowly reduce the effort. Okay, as with strength training, the heavier and more intensely we go, the fewer reps we're going to do, the more rest, and the lower the frequency. So what I would recommend is 2 to 3 times per week, you're going to do 2 to 3 sets of the high intensity ones once your hamstring can handle it. But remember, this is a big key. Start with a low stretch, low intensity. Gradually, as you can, increase the intensity. Once you can increase the intensity more and go harder, then you can increase the stretch. Then over time, you can increase the intensity in a deeper stretch position, and that's when we're really building up more strength and resilience to start to resist the forces in ultimate, where we're sprinting and jumping. Now, final thought with isometrics, Once we feel pretty healthy and confident, maybe we're back to playing, but we want to make sure that we're as prepared as we can be, then you can start doing isometrics with a quick buildup instead of gradual. So then you can do things like ballistic isometrics, where you're taking 2 or 3 seconds to build up to max intensity. So you're teaching the hamstrings, teaching the tendon of the hamstrings to create force and develop force really quickly. Okay, so it'll be something like this. I'm gonna use my hand to help you visualize here. So it'll be like boom, 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 just like that, okay? Then you can practice on top of that, quick contraction really intensely, and then quick relaxation, okay? Dissolving that tension. So like this. Okay, so this is really important as well. We want to build up the resilience in our hamstrings, in our tendons through progressive isometrics, but then we also want to build up the ability to produce force really quick, because that's what happens when we sprint. It's just a really fast contraction, then a relax, and then the next stride, really fast contraction, and then relax. So if we don't build up that ability, chances are we're going to run into problems down the road. Now, final consideration for today is training the hip and training the knee. So we started with movement of the hip and the knee, but then we also want to work on improving the health and the rotation of the hip and the knee, because the hamstring attaches to both. And when a joint does not function particularly well, what happens is the surrounding tissues, the tissues that attach to them, often get mixed signals from the nervous system about how to function. So sometimes your hamstring could get injured or could feel tight because of an issue at the hip or because of an issue at the knee, rather than because of the hamstrings itself. So we want to train the hamstrings, absolutely, just like we did, but we also want to make sure the hips and knees function well. So doing the cars that we went over, awesome. That's a great place to start, and that can help. We also want to improve the rotation of our hips, specifically internal and external rotation. I have some videos on that you can check out, but really quick, doing a 90-90 type exercise can be very helpful. External rotation, internal rotation. So leaning in, coming back up, rotating toward the back hip, leaning in. I'll show you from this angle here. All right, here, here. This is going to stretch you into internal and external rotation of your hips, and then you would do the other side as well. Now, what most people are lacking is internal rotation. It's not everybody, but internal rotation is a big limiting factor. Another way to work on this is to come forward, try to rotate, lifting that ankle, and back down. So this is just a little dip your toe into some hip mobility. So try some of this 90-90, try the hip cars regularly to the best of your ability, and that's going to help start the process of improving your hip health. Okay? For the knees, doing things like those rotations, the flexion and extension, we're going to take our knees through full range of motion. Now I'll show you a full knee car, which combines rotation with extension and flexion. So you would do something like this. Rotate, extend, rotate, flex as much as possible, rotate, extend, rotate, flex. This gets all the hamstrings involved. Then you would reverse it, so you would extend, rotate externally, pull in, rotate internally. Now, this rotation is pretty tough while we're out here, so we don't want to fully extend. We want to go like 80%. And if it's tough to do, then just get some extra practice seated with this rotation. To summarize here, right after an injury or pain presents itself, we want to get as much movement as possible. Walking, knee and hip cars, getting the hamstrings moving in a relatively pain-free way. We want to continue that process of movement as much as possible over the next several days, and honestly, like throughout your life. Then we want to supplement with isometrics. We're going to start low stretch, low intensity into a higher stretch, higher intensity over the course of days or weeks. And we want to gradually build up the intensity with our isometrics with each rep. Over time, once we work into high intensity and feel good, then we can start doing isometrics that are faster, ballistic isometrics with a quick onset and a quick relaxation. In conjunction with all of this, to give our hamstrings the best chance of functioning well, we want to train our hip and our knee to rotate well and to be healthier and stronger for the long term. There are many more strength and conditioning things that we can do for our hamstrings, lifting, eccentrics, etc. But the biggest limiting factors for most people that I see are the health of the hip and the knee and the isometrics. That's where we want to spend our time, particularly if you've been dealing with chronic hamstrings tension, pain, strains, or pulls. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested, I have a free Ultimate Mobility community that you can join. I have the link right in the description, and I hope to see you around.